to Scry-Fi. This is our third episode. We're talking about The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 3. A lot of stuff happened in this way. Actually, it was a really weird kind of...
Almost a two-story thing.
Yeah.
Going on. Yeah.
Side story jammed right in the middle, which was great.
And a long episode with a lot of stuff.
Do we want to talk about... It was so separate because... So in this one is mainly about Dr. Mine's not working.
Pershing, right?
Yeah, Pershing. So Dr. Pershing and his little thing on Coruscant. So do we want to talk about it in chronological order or what happened, or do we want to talk about just the Mandalorian parts and then that part separately?
Why don't we do that? Let's talk about just the Mandalorian part first.
Okay, so
get on that story.
All right. So we start off right off the bat. Yeah, we right off the bat of where we left off, which was
we're in the living waters, and
basically,
I was like, nothing happened.
yeah. I thought that was hilarious. She's like, did you see anything?
Was going to happen.
Yeah.
Did you happen to see anything alive? Anything
alive? No reason.
I'm just wondering.
I wonder. It's not like she is questioning what she saw, is she?
No, I think she totally knows she saw it, but it's like we said last time. Probably somebody think you were crazy. It's like you see something that everybody thinks extinct. Oh, I just saw a T-Rex. There's one left. You don't go around immediately just saying that. But my wife thought that there was something kind of nefarious about it, like she's scheming something. She doesn't want somebody else to go tame the mythosaur before she gets a chance to.
I mean, it's kind of fair in the fact that he's holding the sword that she specifically told him, do not fight that dude. Because I need to fight him.
Before, then she says, "There's a mythosaur down there," and he dives in and comes back.
Next thing he's all riding the mythosaur. I got the sword, and he's like, "Why did I tell him?" Yeah, I could totally see not telling.
Yeah,
him.
Maybe she's like, maybe I'll keep this ace in my sleeve for now and figure out what I want to do about it.
Yeah. So they leave the caves. I guess nothing attacks them on the way out. And then they're flying along happily and all that, and then suddenly TIE interceptors.
Oh yeah, right? And it's always cool to see TIE interceptors.
So
that battle scene was awesome. Having an atmospheric battle scene is especially cool too.
Yeah, 6 TIE interceptors just hanging out.
Well, we know there's got to be a mothership somewhere because they don't have hyperdrives.
Right. Well, not normally. I mean, maybe these are updated. We know that First Order ones have hyperdrives, don't they?
Yeah, but that's like 30 years in the future, 25 years in the future.
It's about 20 years in the future, right?
Yeah. Oh,
20, that doesn't mean that some warlord section somewhere.
No, they certainly could. But I suspect if they did, that they look a little different or something. Sure. But those were like classic. I think they also mentioned something like, hey, that means there's somebody around here. Better watch out. I don't know if they do. I thought they did. Or maybe that was just me thinking to myself, there's like a big ship around somewhere. And we don't know. She said that's a lot even for a warlord. Or she said warlord. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
So we never did find out why this attack was done. Who would want to go and attack Bo-Katan's home?
Well, I mean, he does say, if you go around stealing warlord ships, you tend to get angry.
Yeah. So they've been messing with people. So maybe that's explanation enough.
Well, and then we'll get to this in a minute, but there's some obvious, there's some obvious reach that what's his name has. Moff Gideon. Yeah, there's some more reach than we thought he had than just that one
and
little.
it's not real certain if all the stuff going on in this episode is Gideon or whoever Gideon was maybe working for.
But Gideon knew who she was, and this could be retribution for her involvement of his capture or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this scene, first of all, him jumping out of the ship like that reminded me of the Clone Wars, where they would jump out of ships and then fight in their jetpacks and all that stuff.
They did that a little bit in when they were hijacking the Imperial ship last season.
Oh, right. Yep.
And what's cool about this one too is that you can tell he wants to get down there fast, so he doesn't hit his jetpack until the last minute, and then he kind of like falls down. That's really cool because I'm sure he could have just come down in a controlled way, but it would have taken too long to get to his ship.
Yeah. Trying to get to that part where he's just about to hit it.
I thought it was a little iffy that they do it in a way where these ships are coming. And he was lucky he didn't get left over by one of those interceptors.
Yeah, I know. And man, the desperation of I got to get in the ship before he blows it up.
Yeah, here he comes.
I was like, don't blow up another Mandalorian ship. Don't do it. We
yeah,
just
and
started loving this
great
ship.
scene, and then when he takes off, it's like whoosh right up. You know, this amazing takeoff.
Oh yeah, I know he's like 0 to 160 and
like 90 degrees up.
It's bam. I know. And then he does the Batman.
Oh yeah,
maneuver here. You know, the minute I saw it, I thought it was like the Batman thing, right? Where he stops for a minute and then. Whoop.
There is a mistake that I noticed in this episode.
Uh-oh. What was that?
I can't remember exactly where it is, but I think as we talk and we go through it, it's going to come to me. There's a moment where he has the dome is back there, and then it disappears.
Really?
It's later in the episode. It's not here.
Yeah, it's not there.
Later in the episode. We'll come to it. I'll keep a lookout for it. But
that's interesting. So, and then the fights and stuff throughout the canyons here.
Yeah, this is really awesome.
It's funny that she's like, "Oh, I grew up doing this." Boom! Immediately bumps into it.
Her ship is cool. Not as maneuverable, but that's okay. It's a bigger ship. And there's one particular moment, I think you know what I'm going to say, in this battle, where you see what those wings on that ship are for.
Oh, the Crazy Ivan?
Yeah. When one goes like this and the other one goes up, and it forms an air brake that pushes the
there.
It's not right there.
It's right here.
It's coming up soon. Do it right there.
That's the Crazy Ivan right there.
Yeah, where one of the wings comes up. That was awesome. And this ship design was designed back in the Clone Wars, right? Yeah. That's the same ship that we see.
Yeah, I love this whole scene. Their ability to do dogfights this season so far.
I know.
Episode 1.
They are packing in cool battle scenes.
It is really great. And then this is another last episode we talked about the actors' abilities to like give you emotion through just their heads wearing a helmet and stuff. But when she sees the explosions, even they're just talking right there, but like even just the slight shakes and stuff like that. But she's about to see the explosion here. And look how sure
you can even see something without the sound. You can tell.
Oh, right. So there's the explosions.
Boom.
That.
Yeah.
Heavy breathing, all that stuff.
Love seeing the TIE bombers again too. That's cool.
Yeah. And then of course the TIE bombers were also responsible for bombing Mandalore. So probably bringing some of that back, I'm sure. I'm glad that she was able to get pulled away after shooting the photon torpedo.
Notice how he jets in front of her to try to draw their fire away from her.
Yeah. But he's also kind of like getting in front of her like, come on.
Yeah, But if you're going to lock on somebody, he wants to lock on him because he's more maneuverable, and Grogu is in the other ship. So.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that. That's also why he's got to tell her, like, no, you can't fight that.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
Yeah, none of those seem to have the old-fashioned hyperdrives on them. Yeah. So they get into space, so they hyperdrive away, and then if we're going to skip the whole middle part, just to talk about the Mandalorians first.
Mm-hmm.
So then they show back up at the covert. Right. And at this point, I don't see her making fun of the covert as much. You know what I mean?
Right. She
like
says,
she hasn't said anything.
Right. Right. Even when at the very beginning, when he wakes up, she says, "You bathed in the waters, you are redeemed." You know, but she doesn't make any smart ass comments about it.
Yeah.
Because I think she's starting to like gain some respect. I think right now she's at a place where she's like, okay, well, it's not my ways, but I can respect it because of the commitment there. Oh, and then something we didn't mention last time, last episode, is it also goes the other way. Whenever she mentioned that her father died for Mandalore, Din just stops and he says, "This is the way," and then she looks kind of surprised because I'll bet they don't normally say "this is the way" to somebody outside their order.
Probably, but there's also
it was like a sign of respect anyway. And so
I almost wondered if that's something her father said once or something a few times. Like if he really did respect the old ways, kind of thing, he might have said stuff like
kind of depends,
almost kind of like an amen or something. You know what I mean? Like
but it showed her that he doesn't only respect his order and the rest are just, you're not a man. You know, he gave a little bit of a hat tip, and that was a big deal.
Well, he said, you know, this was last episode, but he said he sounded like a good man or something. She was like, he was a great man. Like she has them all up here. So to give him that kind of respect makes her.
Yeah. And I think that made her feel more like being open the other way. So
okay. Yeah.
That's very cool. Man.
Yeah. And then of course, you know, she's backing him up here and she already sounds kind of like, how dare you question, blah, blah, like, and he.
Oh yeah. He's like, who are you? And she's like, who am I?
Oh, but he calls her Night Owl.
Which is Night Owl because of the pattern on her helmet.
And whenever he calls her Night Owl, she kind of the little head tilts, you know, doing more about that, that acting. But like, oh, you recognize now. She doesn't know his last name yet, but
I didn't know she does. Do you think she? No, she probably doesn't.
No, but maybe next episode we'll find out once she does. But yeah, so. Oh, this water thing, by the way, it's always shown like, I don't know about always, but it did in the Boba Fett episodes with Mandalore, where she pours a little water in the green stuff. I never thought about that as she's using waters from Mandalore.
Yeah, and I wonder if she's got a tank somewhere and it's limited.
Yeah, it's got to have a limited amount. So that's got to be a huge deal for her to hear, oh, okay. That the living waters is still real, you know, the armor, you know, we're talking about. I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but so they walk in.
They should say, by the way, I wouldn't stand too close to that water.
Well, they killed it. What happened? They must have dragged that thing off. I don't know what they did to it.
I think they'd be eating on it still.
Yeah, they might. So yeah, she tests it by putting it in the waters here, right?
Right.
Or
so we didn't know how they were going to do that. I was like, did it take any hologram recordings of doing this?
Yeah. So when she does this, I'm like, oh man, that's you know, a great callback to what that was like. How long ago did they write this?
I wonder if they knew when they filmed that scene that that's what they were doing, or if they just thought it was something.
Well, she does it in Boba Fett. I don't know if she does it in the previous seasons. I'll have to go back and look at that. So at least by Boba Fett, they knew.
Unless they just had her do that because that looked like something cool.
Sure.
later.
Now, there's a scene here where she backs him up, but she says specifically, I dived in to get him. Do you think that was on purpose? Do you think she's thinking at this point?
I think she was totally taken aback and surprised when she said, "You too are redeemed." And then she was like, "Oh, I guess I got to think about this."
So you don't think she was thinking of this at all?
No, I think she was totally surprised by it. And she said, "Did you check your helmet up?" She was like, "No, I guess I haven't." And I think that's what it was. And I think that now she kind of feels like, they start putting the hands on her shoulder and everything. Like, I think she kind of appreciates the camaraderie. And after her other people were like, screw this, we're going to go be pirates or whatever, mercenaries, it probably feels a lot more special to her since her other people just like went away to go get some money.
This, especially after, her seeing.
She looks at that and she's thinking about that.
So not only did she first get it, we talked about this last episode where he starts to walk in the waters and you can see her start to appreciate at least some of what she was raised with. And then she sees the mythosaur and that's all swimming in her head and stuff.
All that stuff is just happening right in the chain for her.
Yeah. And then her home is destroyed by Empire, cutting off all of that.
I didn't think about that in the callback to the destruction of Mandalore and how those things tend to radicalize people. You can see
and now
maybe she would. Here.
Yeah. She's really like, it's the perfect little story for her to kind of.
Right. But there's another line on this that's happening that could be happening parallel, which is that there could be two parts of her developing at the same time. Like there's the cynical part, and she maybe is thinking, like, if I can get in good with these guys, it could help my efforts to unite everybody, become the leader. And maybe I'll do that mythosaur thing. So it's like this calculating kind of like, I can use this to my advantage kind of thing going on. That's probably still going on in her head too. But meanwhile, her heart or whatever is getting kind of like transformed a little bit. And I'll bet these two things are racing against each other. And she's going to think that this is part of my clever scheme. And after a while, the heart will overtake and then it'll become real.
Right.
I think that might be what kind of path she's in.
Yeah, I hope that at some point she needs to understand that the entire reason that it hasn't worked for her in the past isn't because she didn't have the sword, isn't because, she wasn't the right one to sit on the throne in her family or whatever. It's because she didn't truly believe in being a Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And now she's getting religion.
Like Neo being the one. It's not about the facts of the situation. It's about, are you ready to be the one?
Right.
Be the one when you are. So that's
cool. I hope they don't gear this around to her like accepting Din as the leader or something. Like I don't want him to end up being the leader.
Din will be the leader. I don't think they're moving that way. He's more the guy who kind of helps make things happen, and then like the Lone Ranger, he leaves his silver bullet, piles silver into the sunset.
Right. Yeah. He doesn't want it. He shouldn't have it. It's not his call. All that stuff. But it's really interesting to see a character like this that has had power, lost it, started again a little bit, lost it, and hasn't understood why she hasn't been able to keep it, but still like feels like she deserves it by birthright and stuff. But it's kind of like the power of Thor. Like you have to own it. You have to be pure of heart or whatever it is.
Show where all the characters are multidimensional and have interesting things going on, not necessarily just
even they showed him just for a second here, but
Vizsla.
What?
Vizsla?
Yeah. So Vizsla, I'm trying to find him on here because there's just a second where she gets accepted Yep, there he is. Just that 1 second. You can tell he's going to be a little bit of a problem. He's been a problem, right?
Yeah, he's going to have his whole arc going on too. So that's good.
In fact,
and I wonder if that kid was his son.
Oh, maybe. He I did find out that kid from the first episode is Jimmy Fallon's nephew.
I happened to
or maybe
see
it's
that
Jimmy
too.
Kimmel's. I can't remember. Anyway,
I
think it's Jimmy Kimmel's nephew.
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel. Right.
But so what's interesting about him is he also thinks he should lead by his birthright, right? In a certain way.
Oh, Vizsla, yeah.
Yeah, Vizsla. So remember, like in the Boba Fett episodes, he thought he should have the Darksaber. It's, his ancestor was the one who had all that.
Paz Vizsla, he's Paz, right?
Yeah.
Paz Vizsla, Bo-Katan, Din Djarin, Grogu, and that other kid, if he is Vizsla's son. All these options kind of brewing up around the throne,
Yeah. I don't know if that's Vizsla's son. I think it's just there were other kids in there too.
Yeah, there's no particular reason to think it, other than that Vizsla happened to be standing the closest, other than the armor.
I think it was just another foundling, and
it very well could. Who knows?
Vizsla's basically second in command of that company.
We didn't see the kid in this episode, so maybe that's not even going to be there.
I didn't see any kids in this episode. I watched for it whenever they were walking in because I wanted to see what her reaction was to seeing children running around with helmets on and stuff. And so they must have a different section or something.
We don't know what all's in those caves. I assume they're not just hanging out in a blank cave. That they've got facilities and stuff.
Right. So that's the Mandalorian portion of this, which was just by itself pretty awesome. But then we get this entire story on Coruscant.
Whole subset story. We get to see Coruscant again.
It's always great to see this.
I remember some of those specific buildings.
Yeah.
And that one, of course.
This one, of course.
Yeah.
Away. So this is the same opera house, I believe.
Yes, that is the opera house that Palpatine was watching the Mon Calamari opera.
And this is the same, or at least one of the staircases that Anakin ran up to talk to him on.
Same area. And in fact, I think right down there in the corner was where Papa Noida, George Lucas, playing that Pantoran character, was standing. Yeah, when we see that, I'm like, what in the world, how is she infiltrated here and stuff?
Right. Yeah, I recognized her, but I was like, where have I seen her before? Like, it didn't.
Oh, I knew because they showed it. They reminded us in the last time, whatever.
I don't watch the last times because I feel like those are minor spoilers to.
They're telling you what's going to be relevant in the next. I can understand not wanting to do that, but because I did see that, I knew exactly what it was.
So I always skip those because I don't want to know. Oh, this is going to pop up or something like that, So yeah, I did. I just knew like I've seen that person before, and it wasn't until later.
Oh, okay. Now in this part where he's talking about, we want to do good and all this stuff, I was thinking he's the evil scientist who's just pulling their leg and wants to do his evil experiments. Of course, we'll find out later. I'm pretty convinced by the end of this that he's just totally a naive, innocent guy.
Yeah, I don't think he was ever really on board with the Empire.
Yeah,
I think he just cared about his
he's saying here about his work wanting to help people. I think it's legit. I think we find out that he's the real deal. That's what he means. He's just kind of like at the mercy of these people that are a lot more conniving than he is.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, like he becomes a doctor, he wants to work in genetics and cloning and stuff because of what happened with his mother, right? And the New Republic's like, nope, that's illegal. And he's like, well, how can I do that? And he just hooks up with whatever people will fund his research.
Yeah, he thinks after he gets the solution, everybody will go, oh, now we get it, and then they'll want to do it.
Right.
Again,
and also
naive and.
Well, yes and no. I mean, there have been some pretty horrific horrific things that medicine has done to get to, and we taken what's happened.
And I guess he does know that like it was going to hurt innocent people. So maybe he's not all good. I'm not necessarily saying he's good. But I do think he's sincere. He's not trying to pull one over on him. I think he's saying what he actually thinks here. Right.
I don't think he even knew that his research was going to be used to basically bring about Palpatine again.
We're assuming that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
It could also be that maybe Moff Gideon wanted to use it to make super soldiers or something.
True.
Yeah.
I love the fact that he has this little damage part on his ear.
He got shot, right?
Yeah. So on the last episode of last season, that whenever he gets taken hostage by one of the pilots of the Hyderian shuttle, and Cara Dune shoots the guy, he's holding his ear like that.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
And so when he starts talking about his mother, look, he touches his ear.
Yeah, that's kind of.
And there's another part in this, I forgot where it was, but there's another time. Yeah, he touches his ear thinking about basically like the road that he took or something. It makes him think like that moment, that scary moment or something made him kind of reassess or something.
Also, his glasses, by the way, worth talking about. You don't see people wearing glasses usually in Star Wars. So I kind of like to imagine, my headcanon is that there's some cool science function to that. Like it's a heads-up display, has a computer in it or something, for analysis.
Yeah. I know. I was really kind of hoping,
because it's just that he's nearsighted and he wears glasses.
Right. I was really kind of hoping that whenever they got to the lab and he was like, "Oh, let me get the stuff," he'd hit a button and little things would little text would come up off the glass. Like there'd be some kind of technological
why he wears. Yeah.
Right.
And if you made that specifically a scientist kind of thing, then you could maintain this scientist wear glasses thing,
And it works.
By the way, their little tag here, that's part of the Amnesty program.
Yeah.
That's an A stretched out in Arabesh.
Oh,
the bottom part is white and the top part is black. But the two together make an A on orange.
I think they show a close up of it.
Yeah, you can see it closer in some other shots. And there's little dots on the side, which I think might represent how far through the program you are. Yeah, so right there. So that shape that looks like a K when you put the black and white together, that's an A in Arabic, and it's stretched out for some reason. And then there's these little dots on the right side that are vertical. I think that might represent like a rank or some kind of like I'm partway through the program and earn more.
And that's good detail.
Yeah. I always like, whenever I see any kind of uniform, I like to try to figure out, okay, how does it work? What are the things mean on it? So.
Yeah, Elia has 3 pips on there.
Mm-hmm.
So, so he's given his speech. He's even talking about taking. Yeah. It's a little weird. So what he says is taking genetics from 2 different things and putting them together, right?
The best traits, yeah. Which is what made me think, what if Gideon was trying to make a super soldier? Because that would be perfect for that.
Yeah, because if it was just Palpatine, don't they have his genetic profile somewhere if this was Palpatine's plan anyway?
Sure, but there's something about cloning Force users that's incredibly hard. It either goes awry or it doesn't carry forth the Force abilities
or whatever. The M count. Yeah. So yeah, it was probably something with that as well. I thought when he said take this genetics and these genetics, put them together to make one, I was like, you mean like having a kid? We already got that solved.
Yeah,
but I guess if he's thinking
more targeted, more specific to traits.
Yeah, and I wonder if this is even like, could a Wookiee and a Rodian have a kid now?
I think you could make whatever.
Yeah,
and it's probably similar to what the Sith used to do when they made they had a name. They would make these monsters, basically creatures. It was made with Sith magic, but I'm sure that included genetic science. And this is also one of the first big insights on what they mean when they say strand cast. So they've used that word in sequel trilogy and some of the series. And so I guess that's what they're talking about.
It's interesting that if this technology is supposed to be illegal, why are they letting someone from an Amnesty program tell all these rich people about it?
Well, people probably already know that science exists, or that research exists, that it's trying to be researched. And he's trying to make his plea like, oh, we should do this,
Meanwhile, the Amnesty program is probably just using him to prop up, like, look how good we're doing and all this. Give us your money and donations to keep going. And yeah. These aristocrats were just fun.
Kind of reminded me a little bit of Andor. Some of the scenes in Andor showing the upper classes. And this guy is like, oh, Empire, Rebels, I forget which one, Because if you're wealthy, you kind of have this insulation around you where nothing affects you that much. You're kind of privileged in society. And
right. He has the privilege of not caring who's marching the street.
Probably weren't, like stormtroopers aren't harassing rich people and corporations.
Right.
Unless there's some particular reason
they probably
take over a corporation.
Yeah, they probably care more about taxes and tax laws and things like that.
That's why all the people in the core worlds just sort of went along with things.
Yeah. I even like the rich Mon Calamari.
Yeah, good job of having different Mon Calamari that were different from one another and animated well. I really like all the Mon Calamari.
A lot of Mon Calamari in this episode, actually.
Yeah, and I shouldn't say animated. I should say puppet, because I think those are physical.
Yeah, I think so too. So he gets back to this group and he meets the group of ex people, including Elia.
Knew she was suspicious from the get-go.
Yeah.
No way I ever thought anything different about her.
Right, but just not in the way that I thought. Right?
Oh, right. Yeah, not in the way that I thought. True.
So, also, well, we haven't gotten to that part yet, but yeah, it's interesting to see him like talking a little bit about like the good old days in a way with them, but
and
then everyone's like, oh, but not.
It makes me wonder about some of those other people, who's sincere. It's just like,
right.
Do you like the river?
I know. Yes. Like, oh, but of course, now it's better.
Oh yeah, none of that other stuff.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. There's one part where, right about here, he's reading about or listening to about Coruscant, and they use the word
ecumenopolis, right?
Yeah, ecumenopolis. It's the first time I've ever heard of it.
No, I've read that before. It's actually.
Yeah, I went and looked it up afterwards, but basically city covered planet. But that was pretty cool to.
Something new though, because I was trying to. I've made a map of the Star Wars galaxy, as you know, that has. It's not like most of the time when you see a Star Wars galaxy map, the significant planets on there are things that were significant to the film. So they have Tatooine and Hoth and stuff like that. So I wanted to make up one for the role-playing game that's significant to the universe where Tatooine's not even on it. But like other planets that most people haven't heard of, like Metalos and Jutrand and Eriadu and all them, they are highlighted real big, so it's like within the universe. So in doing that and having to go through and do the research for that, I knew that there were I came across a handful of planets that were ecumenopolises and ecumenopoli, and they have in the hundreds of billions to 1 trillion population, and so I knew that there were those, but there was always a question of How many are there like that? In this, I think this might be the first time it's been mentioned that there are, quote unquote, a handful. It is one of only a handful of ecumenopolises, what that little thing says. So that's new information, I think, because there could have been 100 of them in the Star Wars galaxy. So now it kind of matches the ones you've heard about through the expanded stuff.
That's fun.
That means, you know, maybe you could add in a couple more, but they should probably pull from lore if they're going to feature it.
So they go to the well, he gets his little food.
Yeah. By the way, the top of that box is designed like the little crate in Docking Bay 94 that we've seen.
I noticed. I recognized it from playing old X-Wing. If you remember the crates that you'd get in X-Wing, the old X-Wing computer game. Yeah.
So that circle with the lines coming off of it is a common pattern you see in a lot of crates.
Yeah, there's this little snacks.
And that is a EB are the two letters there. Something biscuit, I would imagine.
Well, he liked the yellow one, so whatever flavor that is, I guess.
Yeah.
And this is him and his very boring job.
So a few cool trivia things in here. Do you know what they are?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the dude comes up to him and says, Happy Bendu Day.
Yeah.
This is the first time in live action a day of the week has been mentioned. And it's one of 5 days of the week that exist in the lore. Later in the episode, they say Tongs Day.
Right.
So we have Bendu Day and Tongs Day. There's also Syntax Day, Crime Day, and the last one is Zell Day. So those are all the days. Well, there was a time when they said there were 5 days of the week, and then at that time they came up with those names. It comes from the old West End Games role-playing game stuff. But I was chatting with just a little quick back and forth on Twitter with Pablo Hidalgo, who's part of the Lucasfilm story group, try to keep everything consistent. And he was saying he thought, because there's been other sources that say 7 days a week, and he was thinking, well, for simplicity's sake, he tends to think they probably have just 7 days. It's just easier to make it 7 day a week. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting, because I was trying to find out for the role-playing game, you know, what he thought. And so he considers 7 days a week to be the thing. And so now that they've mentioned this little thing, they kind of open a can of worms, because there's only 5 names known. Does that mean they now have to create 2 new names? I asked them, how about a contest to name the 2 extra days of the week? So anyway, that's the cool little trivia piece here. There's one more in this scene, which is that tray of those little
data pads,
data chips.
Yeah,
that they look exactly like, if you find it, if you move around, you'll find the front of that. It'll show the front of it, and they look exactly. I think it's earlier before that, or maybe it's when the guy shows up. Oh, here he goes. He comes over and brings it, and then they show the front of it. So try to pause there if you can't. Yeah, right there. Boom. That one on the left with the gold circle, that's exactly what the one looked like that Princess Leia puts into R2-D2 to give the Death Star plans, and what you see in Rogue One that they're trying to carry and put through the door and all looks just like that.
Oh, when they pull it out of the thing and start running.
So all the rest of these, you know, look similar and everything. So that was really cool little detail that they kept those looking the same.
Now, I remember that the drives in Rogue One were a little bit heavier.
Yeah, that was a big thing.
Yeah, they wanted to take them out of the database. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like this whole scene, and it reminded me of the Andor scene where what's his name, Karn. He's also in a menial job.
Was it Weights and Measures or Standards and Measures or something like that?
Yeah, there's some kind of, I don't know if it was done on purpose, but there's some kind of it, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but it's kind of like, yeah, it's not like the Empire, but it kind of still is in a little bit. Like
it's a business setting.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bureaucracy no matter what at certain levels.
Sure. Yeah, you're going to have bureaucracy because you got a giant galaxy. But what's interesting? There's one more little tidbit here, which is the guy standing there talking to him. He's wearing the blue. That's the same color blue that we see in the New Republic officers with the white helmets and the white gloves and white shoes. So he's also got white shoes, by the way. You can see it in every part of the scene. And so he's got the same gear on, but without the helmet and the armor and the gun. And he's also got, see his little rank thing on the right breast? That follows the same pattern as what we see the generals and stuff wearing in the Rebel Alliance in the original trilogy. They get a dot in the middle, then it becomes it looks like a five-dotted die face. So that's
he's probably an officer, low level.
Yeah, but he's super low level.
Yeah,
and so that means that this isn't purely a civilian office setting. This is like he's part of the New Republic military, and he's over the Amnesty program to keep an eye on people. And
I assume the Amnesty program is military. Yeah.
Yeah, or at least security or police or some kind of government thing like that, where he would have a rank.
So we finally get to see a full live action view of all that. They did show it for an instant in the remaking of Return of the Jedi when they did the celebration of the end of the Empire kind of thing. They showed it, and they actually showed the little peak of Umat here.
Yeah, and they also showed this courtyard in a scene in, it was either Bad Batch or Rebels.
It was twice in Clone Wars.
Oh, maybe Clone Wars is what I'm thinking of. They have to go there to meet some informant or something like that's going on. That took place in this courtyard. Must be a Thorian in the background.
It's been mentioned that Elia here likes the red ice cream thing, and that she also likes the red biscuits, and that's her evil call that she's evil.
Okay.
I think it's interesting.
And then this is the first time that Mount Umat was actually mentioned by name, though.
Right. Well, I think it's been right. Yeah, and her getting him to touch it is funny. Try to touch it and stuff.
Yeah.
The fact that at first I thought, wait, is Umat the mountain that's supposed to be under the Jedi temple? But it's not. It's a different one. Yeah. I would like to know more about what happens. Like, what happened to the Jedi temple? What happened to the palace, the Imperial Palace? Like, I want to know those things, even though it's hard to squeeze that kind of information into a story and make it.
There's so much more to ask.
Right. And I'm kind of glad that they're not doing so much fan service to where they are telling me that, and that they care more about the story than they do those little things.
Sure. I mean, to me, this is like making something in a consistent world. Yeah. If you were making a rom-com that took place in New York, there would be, oh, look in the background, that's the Chrysler building. Well, of course, because that's what's there.
Right. I guess that's true. But yeah, I thought this scene was fun to see in real life. These little moments again
feel oppressive, don't they?
Yeah.
But it should be oppressive because these guys are basically in prison. They are it's like being on parole, where when you're on parole, you're technically in a punishment thing, and they're just giving you more leeway as a mercy or something. So these guys are under parole basically until they have gone through enough of the program to prove that they're not going to go out and start bombing stuff.
Right. I mean, they even say at one point, well, it's better than what would happen in the Empire. Blah,
yeah, it's actually pretty merciful, basically. But they're not going to execute thousands and thousands of stormtroopers.
I mean, I guess we saw what would happen with the Empire on Andor. You know, they just throw them in prison for life, basically. For even
if they could use them for labor, sure. And if they were in trouble, they just execute them.
Yeah. So it is better, but it's still so. Even with the droid doing this, it's still so clean. It's so stagnant.
You figure what's going to happen though is that they, you know, if they're good and they go through the program, everything's cool. Eventually, they're going to just become regular citizens. And even the thing where they said, "Oh, they're all going by numbers," you know, that feels very cold too.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that actually could be immersive. That could be like, we're going to allow you to start new and not have people coming after you and being able to look you up and get revenge on you and stuff like that because you were over that prison where my brother was and stuff like that. They can't look you up. Employers can't look you up. So they're probably going to have a whole new identity after they work their way through the program. You know, so the number thing could be, you know, actually kind of a good thing.
Yeah, but it still feels dehumanizing. Like this whole process, you know,
it's not a pleasant thing to have to deal with. I don't see, you know, I've heard a lot of comments online about people saying, "Oh, the New Republic's just as bad as the Empire and stuff," but most people in the New Republic aren't living like this. Most of them are fine, you know, and they're also not putting people into this kind of program because they said something they shouldn't have on their Facebook page.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even whenever it showed his room that he had, I was like, oh, he's living pretty good, actually. Like, that's a nice room. Right, that he has. Yeah.
Just basically don't try to be an Imperial still.
Okay. Well, we do know that they put Imperial troops and stuff through conditioning. So they really are trying to uncondition them.
Yeah, they've got to make sure that they're not going to go try to usurp the New Republic.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know what all was done with Nazi soldiers. I mean, I know what happened to the Nazi leadership. They were tried and hung and all that, but all those soldiers and everything, I don't know if they had to stay, how long they had to stay in a prison and what they had to do. It's a mess.
So these police droids.
Oh wait, can we go back real quick just to the robot interviewing him scene? You don't have to go back to it visually, but I was just going to say one more thing there. I imagine what's going on here is that the droid is listening for vocal intonations or anything he might say that's a problem thing, and then it flags it, and then later, like some organic is going to see everything.
Right. There he is holding his ear again while he thinks about.
Oh, that's the other part that you're talking about, right?
Huh. It's kind of like whenever he has to decide what's right or wrong. It kind of, you know, I don't know.
Interesting.
Thinking about what got him there in the first place, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like this actor, by the way. He does such a good job.
Yes, cool. And he had a great post recently on his Twitter. I just happened to see it today. His son got to be an extra in the background on the corset scene where they're walking around the mountain, you know, and it shows him on the set with his son, the corset in the background, and it looked real still because they're on the volume. And he said, like, his son was going to bed that night and said, "Hey, Dad, the Coruscant is real. I was there." Yes, it is.
That's great.
So apparently he's a big Star Wars fan.
He is now, if it wasn't before.
Yeah.
The police droids are fun. They don't look like the ones from previous Imperial. So these are probably all brand new. They all look very shiny. Yeah.
Train ticket droids.
Well, you see them before too.
Yeah, but you see them right outside the train station. So.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, right here.
Yeah. And that window up there that has all the destination stuff on it looks very similar. That dude has a cool story, I bet. That sign back there, though, looks like very similar to the sign that was over the starports in the Obi-Wan series.
Oh, right. Yep. I think also in Solo, right?
Maybe.
There's.
I've decoded what all that says.
Have you?
There's that guy I was talking about. The uniforms are white and the blue. Cool. Yeah, it says like a Monument Station, federal, something or other. I can't remember all. Just typical stuff you would expect.
Nice. So
and then that says gate.
So they're on the train. They don't have tickets. I'm guessing that they can't just normally have tickets because it would flag their IDs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Now here's the thing, though. Do not let your kid wander around inside of one of these trains while you take a nap, because all you got to do is press a button and you're just out into a single button, and any passenger can just walk out.
I mean, Star Wars has never been kid friendly. There's no rails.
They have no safety issue, no ocean in Star Wars at all.
Where there's 1 trillion people on the planet. I mean, you have some population control.
They should have had her like pull out some little pick lock thing or something,
some quick override or something.
Yeah. Something that you could have her say, "Oh, I learned this trick," and then later you'd be thinking, "Oh, they did it because it was all in."
Well, when they open this, everybody kind of looks at him like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, they definitely think, "Oh, that shouldn't happen."
Yeah. It's funny that the droid is just like very slowly, like, I guess I'll need to investigate this.
Yeah. He doesn't start.
Ooh, that's a weird guy. I like his coat, by the way. It kind of reminds me of Blade Runner. Yeah, he has the thing up.
You get the high collar up, leads you up.
Yeah, he looks all cool. Even with the glasses.
Oh, that's where he says Tongs Days, am I right?
Yeah. Both of them she says it first, and everybody's like,
says it more effectively.
And then he says it, and everybody's like, what? Like he doesn't do it right. He fails his role. So here's a question. We know what's going to happen, right? We know that she has set him up so that he's going to get arrested.
I thought she was going to get him out there and then like abduct him, or so he could go back and work for Gideon,
right?
Or maybe kill him so that he's out of the way. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Like her goals in this are still kind of mysterious to me. So her goal in the end is to fry his brain.
Yeah, so why not just kill him while you're out? Oh, but she had the cooperation of the Republic, so that means that she still wants to be embedded and seem like she's all good. She doesn't want to lose her undercover embedded status, but she does want to close off that loose end.
Right, but if this is a setup, right? So let's say she thought, okay, I got this scientist guy. I got to get his mind wiped basically or killed because he knows too much, or we don't want his information being looked at too much, because then people will start figuring out what he was up to or what we were using some of his stuff for. I don't know why they don't just kidnap him again. She's got him outside the thing.
And here's the thing, too. After she turns that knob up again, she's going to have to get the hell out of there because they're going to know he got fried and the knob was all up.
Right. I mean, I guess you could turn it back down after a minute or two and then be like, oh, he had a weird reaction. But they don't keep records. There's no graph or anything to be like, what happened?
I don't see how she doesn't have to get the hell out of there.
Also, why do they have the knob?
I know. Well, I can buy that you have this machine and it's going to help. And the guy says, it was quite refreshing. I like that. But they should have modified it so that you can't turn up the knob into dangerous.
Right. Level. If this is really the 602 mitigator and not the mind flayer, then it shouldn't have the mind flayer setting on it.
I know. They should have
should not have that
held a bar on there or something for safety reasons. And then they should have not allowed randos to be just at the equipment unattended.
What? Yeah, why did everybody leave? Like, there's not a
droid. Just leave and assume everything went according to plan. Maybe they're not allowed to be in the room there during the procedures.
That's fine. Why the Twi'lek leave? Why
Why
is there not a droid or a camera?
I don't know.
Nobody's listening to him going, like, there's no monitoring at all. It's just like, yeah, it's going to be fine.
Yeah, I guess, you don't know how this stuff's going to continue. Are we going to see that doctor again, or is he just blank-minded now? He's basically out of the picture. I don't know.
I think that might be it. I think she's wiped.
I mean, we're definitely going to see her again. That's for sure.
I think so. Yeah, I hope so. Anyway,
but will we see him again? I mean, it's possible we could see him, and there's a way to get back those memories.
I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah, so this is the part where I was thinking, like, it'd be cool if he used his glasses to, like, hologram thing would come up or something. Just some science-y reason to have it,
Yeah, and then when this happens, that really blew me away because I did not expect it to go down like that. I knew she was training him, but I didn't know she'd have their blessing and be let in on it. By the way, that says police on the vehicle there.
Yeah.
And the same kind of vehicle, by the way, that we see in Jedi Fallen Order and some other places, I think, in Clone Wars and stuff.
This guy has the same rank.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, I don't know if you saw this or not, but it's funny that he says to him, "It's a trap."
Yeah, and he kind of looked like that was neat. I think they might have done that on purpose.
Yeah, I think they definitely did that on purpose.
And I like how all the Mon Calamaris kind of have this, "Hey, how are you doing?" kind of voice. It's like similar to Admiral Akbar.
Yeah. There's a point where he says something to the Mon Calamari, and he kind of like thinks, "Oh, that's weird." Like, I forget what it was, but it was like he almost convinced him, like, "Oh, there might be something here," but he's like, "Nah, that's fine," and moves on.
This isn't the Empire, son. I've been through the process several times myself. I find it quite refreshing.
Which makes you wonder, is this guy a product of the Amnesty thing himself?
Maybe he went through it for other reasons, like traumatic things in your life.
Yeah, because Mon Calamari wouldn't be imperial. I mean, generally he wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But yeah. So she's being praised by the Twi'lek here, who just so happens to have a perfect hat.
He's actually a higher rank than the Mon Calamari.
Oh, he's in the little booth.
Yeah.
See, that's as far as that knob should go.
That's Republic level, and then up higher Empire level.
Yeah. So they're perfectly fine in this monitoring station. Why does this guy ever leave? His job is obviously
he's got other things to do.
He's got nothing to do. Where's he going? Where are you going? No, don't leave.
No.
Like, why? Why does he leave? And why does he leave her there? What's he expect her to be doing?
Well, she said, I really cared about him. You care if I stay and just want to be with him because I care about him. I could understand that if it was in some other kind of observation area or waiting area, but not where the controls are. Yeah. Very sus.
There's that face.
Yeah.
So she's double agenting, basically.
But who is she working for? Is it really Gideon, or is it who Gideon was working for, or somebody else?
I think she's working for at least Gideon, if not for who Gideon's ultimately working for, right?
Now, they did mention, like, I heard that. Remember those guys at the table? They were saying something about Gideon.
Yeah, one of them said, I heard that he escaped or something like that. Right before the tribunal.
Mind Ripper or whatever.
Mind Flare, yeah.
Mind Flare.
Yeah, I think we'll see Gideon again. But I really like to see, I don't know if you're watching the Bad Batch series going on here, and we won't talk too much about it because we didn't say there'd be spoilers about that, but they have, especially from last season, there's been some, talk about some things that might be connected.
Yeah.
And so it might be interesting that we might get to see that in real life versus, that facility and stuff.
I was thinking about too, like involving things like if you wanted to have a character from Andor in this, they would be about 20 years older. So you could easily have that.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got the next episode coming up. I think in the next episode, there's going to be a scene where Bo-Katan and the Armorer are having a heart-to-heart, right?
I thought you were going to say they get it on. I was like, what?
No. But they keep the helmets on. No, but they gotta. She's probably gonna be like doing her, ching, making armor stuff or whatever, but having like a talk and stuff. Do you think she's going to tell the Armorer about the Mythosaur?
I don't know what she's planning. I really have no idea what Bo-Katan is up to. Or, I don't know.
At some point, I mean, this is like saying, like a Messiah has come or something to these people, right? Like, this is news that should be a huge
deal. They probably won't believe her if she just said, "Yeah, there's a Mythosaur. We saw it." What? I mean, they hardly believed her when they said he went and stood in the water.
That was before they proved it. Now that they are part of the covert, it's
maybe they take it more seriously.
Yeah. So if she says this to her, she might go, that means it's time to go back to Mandalore. And
maybe she'll just say like that. If there was still a Mythosaur, what would be the response?
Well, she said, yeah, that's funny. So the Armorer said in the Boba Fett one, I don't even know if they showed that at the beginning or anything, but she said in the Boba Fett episode that, legend says that the Mythosaur will rise again and this will create a new era for Mandalore, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, they had to have all this planned.
Yeah, this was planned in Boba Fett. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this is like the biggest news in the world to these people.
That's why she's sitting on it, and she's like wanting to take time to think about what. Maybe she doesn't even know what she's going to do yet, and she's just like, before I say anything, let me figure out where that.
She was not even a believer, an hour ago.
I know. I mean, in all honesty, I might do something similar if I were in that spot.
No, sure. She didn't know
huge. Yeah. You don't just immediately start, especially if there's some kind of like consequences for things you're trying to accomplish.
Well, and she also, like you said, Bo-Katan is a cunning ruler as well. Like, she's probably also figuring out her best moves with this information. Knowledge is power, kind of thing. So,
and you might cause problems too that hurt things.
But these
reveal certain information too soon.
I mean, she calls them zealots for a reason. They'll all sacrifice themselves to the last child if you do the wrong thing. It's who knows what could go wrong with that.
The problem is the longer she goes without saying anything, it's going to be that much more awkward when she does realize it.
Like, oh yeah, by the way, yeah. Those Mythosaurs. But yeah, so this last
there's going to be other events that come into play that we don't know yet that modify all the situation in ways so that we can.
Sure. I think that I'm gonna bet. I'm gonna give a bet that the next episode we're gonna start with a scene with the Armorer and Bo-Katan talking, just them. Because you already know the Armorer has an opinion about Bo-Katan. Because she talked about her. She talked about her before,
Yeah.
So
but, now she's cleansed.
Yeah. This is the way.
The Armorer might have her own schemes going on. That might be why the armor brought it up. Like, you two are cleansed. Now we got Katan on our side.
Maybe. I don't know. I think that she's such a devoted zealot that
I don't mean schemes to be ruler.
I see.
Maybe schemes to like help their covert become more predominant and grow.
Sure.
That kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. But
I think Katan involved is a big deal.
I think the way their covert is structured, that's a natural thing now. As they pull in more people that are just as devoted, basically. And she even said, like, at some point you may decide you don't want to be here and you could be gone.
Yeah.
But as long as you are within the little, rules set or whatever that lets you be part of this, you can be here.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I think she's going to stay longer than she thought she would because of the camaraderie.
Yeah.
She doesn't even have a throne to sit on and pout on.
There's other rules besides the helmet thing. Like when they came to Din's rescue on Navarro, when he was being hunted by all those bounty hunters, that was obviously because he was part of the covert. It was their duty to do that.
Sure. I don't think she'd have a problem doing something like that. Yeah. But all right, well,
cool.
Another great episode. I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah.
Loving every minute of it.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. We'll be back. I guess next Wednesday, whenever the next episode pops up.
Yep.